What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUno podcast. I'm your host, Shane McNeely. And just a reminder, CrazyFaceUno is inspiring others to do good, make a difference in our local and global community. I'm very excited to introduce my guest today. He's a longtime friend and just a great human being. His name is Carl Stevens. Welcome, Carl.
Hey, man. Happy to be here, dude. It's long overdue. I'm excited about what you're building.
I know. Thank you very much. Yeah, it has been long overdue. We obviously live on opposite ends of the world, especially now. But we keep in touch pretty regularly. Well, once or twice a year. And it's always like long. It's always like we always hash it out. We like get it all in, you know. But
yeah, I mean, I think something I appreciate about our friendship and you know, those relationships you have with people where you're able to kind of just fall right back into it, you know.
Yeah.
Even though some time can go by, life moments can happen, things come up and come and go. There's like that respect of
absolutely
just falling into the same old jokes and
Yep.
conversation.
Yep. Well, and I think it's a true like test of friendship in some ways when you can take those long breaks from having a conversation with someone and then just pick right back up where you left off. Like, and I feel like we've always had that. But
Totally.
Carl, we met for the first time at Invisible Children.
Yeah, we did.
I have almost every podcast I've brought up Invisible Children. Not quite every podcast, but almost every. I'm sure you have some similar feelings about it, but Invisible Children was such a foundational moment of my life. Like, it holds a very special place in my heart, and I don't know. And you're a product of that, and I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's interesting. There's so many people I've met from IC. So many learnings beyond just relationships, just learnings, figuring out myself, figuring out where I could fit into the world. It's interesting. I was actually speaking with my mom the other day, and I was doing some traveling, and she was like, "Isn't it just like how moms kind of just interrupt?" Something you're saying, not in a bad way, but they just kind of cut you off with a thought. And then she was just like, isn't it amazing, like such a blessing that you can go to cities, and not just cities in the U.S., but all over the world. You can go to cities, and somebody there now from,
true.
that started because this thing. It's like, wow, yeah, that's super cool.
It is true.
It's amazing.
It's true. It is amazing. Dude, you are, speaking of family, you are one of three, is that correct?
I'm one of four.
One of four.
So
Dang.
I've got the twin. I know.
Yep.
So I'm the oldest by a minute.
You do have a twin brother.
Older is older. So oldest, and then a twin brother, and then a middle brother, and then a younger sister.
Okay. Got it. One of four. See, I wrote my notes one of three. Man, slacking.
Well, I'll tell you, the one brother has like no social media. He's off the grid. I love him for it. He's unbothered by it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. You are you went to school at South Carolina, University of South Carolina?
Yeah, the one and only. That's right.
Good old Gamecocks.
Oh, I love them, despite their best efforts to continually break my heart.
I have a buddy back in Minnesota that I work with, and he played football for the Gamecocks. I don't think he ever really made varsity or anything. He had some injury issues, but I started pulling out some names, and it's all because of you, sir. And he was like, "How do you know that guy?" And I was like, "I just know stuff, man. I just know stuff."
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I saw on the amazing Instagram account you have running for this. I saw the
Trevor
segment with him. I actually thought that was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It's a fun little bit. You're a big football fan.
both in every sense of the world.
Yeah.
Football globally with soccer and
Right.
football American. I love them both.
Just
Yeah,
sports in
absolutely.
general. Let's be honest. We
Yeah,
definitely bond over
completely.
sports. So, what did you study at South Carolina? Was it economics?
Yeah, man, you have a great memory. Yeah, it's interesting. I went into school very unsure of what I wanted to do and be, and I kind of, I thought maybe sports management. I thought journalism
Yeah.
for a long time, and then I settled on economics mostly because, the teachers I think on the day of school that we went to kind of declare sold me and my mom really well on, economics is a really versatile degree, which has
Yeah.
turned out to be totally true, by the way. But like, I think they just liked me or wanted more people in their programs. So like,
Sure.
economics is for you. And I knew I didn't want to do the business school,
Yeah.
but economics let me kind of get a marketing degree as well. So it
Oh,
was my
nice.
way, my
So you're
sneaky way in.
so you did get a marketing degree then too?
Was so technically marketing minor,
Gotcha.
but the business school is I mean, South Carolina's business school is actually really really great. It's
Yeah.
one of the top international business schools.
Yeah.
But they're very rigid if you enter through the business school that you stick to a minor that's within the school.
Sure.
And I wanted nothing to do with like, certain business or financial things.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Cool. Yeah, that's funny. I kind of forgotten about that, to be honest. I mean, like the economics, and I was trying to think of what you. I thought that's what your major was, but I was like, man, I don't remember.
it
So,
doesn't seem very on brand for me, does it? When you think about
well,
it.
yeah, in a lot of ways, because this was my next point was you were when you worked in Invisible Children, you were the social media strategist, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And you've kind of stuck with that whole like marketing, creative side of your life, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the cool thing about econ for me was it set the foundation for my love of trends and following patterns and trying to decode and figure out a society, macroeconomics anyway. I
Yeah.
hated micro. I'm terrible at micro. But on the macro side, I loved just seeing the cause and effect
Yeah.
relationship. And then that led into the marketing minor. And the cool thing about Invisible Children that I really loved, and it's interesting when I look at a lot of people in their profession now, it really led to allowing for transitions and capitalizing on what people were good at, not necessarily just what they came in doing. So I remember like Rachel Ashley, for example, how when I first came to IC as an intern,
Sure.
and roadie and stuff, I remember she was not originally in the art department,
Right.
but Jason knew she was great with a camera when he saw some of her stuff and was like, oh my gosh, we got to get you in here and do this.
Yeah.
And I remember Noelle, really took a chance on me
Yeah.
and saw some potential for various things. I mean, I'll always be grateful for that to her. But she took a chance on seeing me be able to do certain things and allowed this transition that kind of, set me off on the trajectory that I've been on ever since.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, honestly, that's the beauty of Invisible Children, in my opinion. And it's like, what's the phrase? Game recognizes game, or
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
totally.
it's like when people recognize a strength or something that you were good at Invisible Children, it was one of those, hey, like, let's get you going down that direction. You had each other's back,
Totally.
and I even feel similarly, in the just kind of the different the roles I played there, and which is cool because it's honestly opened my eyes to some of my strengths and some of the things that I enjoy with like logistics and figuring out those puzzles. And I really value the time I spent there. I
Yeah,
don't think
I
that will
agree.
ever be a time that is forgotten for me. It's just such a pivotal time in my life.
No, I mean it's interesting. Even in the moments, and obviously, everybody had these, like any job. Even in moments that are frustrating or stressed, or even if you didn't agree with a certain direction of
Yeah.
things, all that stuff, the relationships, the
Mm.
people, the understandings of trying to do good and be better and all these things,
Yeah.
that doesn't go away. I mean, what's crazy, I just read a study actually that it was like a survey where in talking about job satisfaction in the workplace, one of the biggest questions that people responded to with really, really low or mixed results was, do you feel your current job is using you to the best of your abilities? What you're doing at your job, is it using you to the best of your abilities? And the overwhelming answer is no.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting to think about, like IC, for example, where they really, to me, did a great job of, for a lot of people, recognizing, oh, you came in doing this, but you're really good at this, so we're going to move you into doing this.
Right.
Versus so many jobs I've seen in like the quote unquote professional world or whatever.
Yeah.
You go in and you fit a job description,
Right.
and then that's kind of like the concrete walls that get built around you because that's what you came in and were hired and paid to do.
Right.
And
Instead
so
of working to your strengths and playing to your strengths. And I completely agree.
Yeah. So, and you're filling a need. And I get that, right? Like the company hired you to fill a need. But a lot of places don't look at value and potential just because they don't take the time. So it's interesting. Anyway.
I completely agree. I think that stuff's really interesting. And I even wonder, man, I think that there's so many people, and maybe it's just my age or our age. As I get a little bit older, I see so many people that are like just discontent with their life, and I really wonder a lot about it. Kind of speaking to what you were saying there, and just lack of purpose. And I think that in the workplace, when you're not playing to your strengths and when you're just filling a role and you're doing something that maybe isn't, when you're like paddling upstream, it's just difficult, and it drags you down, and it doesn't help you hit your stride and feel like you have purpose and you have value. And I think that that's really important.
It totally is, man. I mean, I think, it's interesting. I try not to, I don't know, I'm in no position to lecture other people, per se.
Yeah.
But it's interesting
Likewise.
to think, like, well, in the sense of like, there's perspective, right? And so if you, like for me, I can honestly say certain things about my current work stuff that I do. It's not the same sense of fulfillment from some of the IC work. It's not the same level.
Sure.
So for some of those things, I've had to find purpose and value outside of work.
Absolutely.
And, I think I could do a lot better on my own balance of that and trying to get more value out of the work. But I've realized, like, man, I've had to supplement other things just to try to keep afloat in that area, just because they weren't coming from work and stuff. But, yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's where CrazyFaceUno kind of came from in a lot of ways. And, I've created a couple other, different Instagram accounts, and it's just, what do I care about? What is important to me? What are the things I enjoy? What are the things I like to do? And how can I invest my time into those things and just see where it goes, see what happens? And CrazyFaceUno, doing good and helping others and like being a part of something bigger than myself has always been something that's been important to me. And that's exactly kind of where it stemmed from. I mean, I've been working up until this move, and where I left my job and now I'm in Florida, and I'm just solely focusing on CrazyFaceUno at the moment. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, it's just been one of those things where, hey, I want to invest my time into something outside of the work that I'm doing that, it was meaningful and fulfilling as well, but Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. So why don't
Yeah, of
you
course.
tell us a little bit about what you're doing now or what you've done post Invisible Children? I mean, I kind of spoke that you were the social media strategist at Invisible Children, but what have you done since then, Carl?
Yeah. So this is great, by the way. I'm one of those people who, it's a gift and a curse. I'm very good at thinking about the present and what currently.
Yeah.
I am such a struggled, playback person and reminisce
Sure.
slash review slash go over. But yeah, so leaving Invisible Children, I had this really interesting uh, departure where in the what was it in the winter, so in the new year of 2014, I had just gone on this crazy trip to Israel and met some incredible people, and
Yeah.
was with Invisible Children through the spring, and just trying to really think, like, what do I want to do next. And I really knew that I loved making things. I loved storytelling, as I know a lot of us do and did. And I was really excited by creation of, not even necessarily like making, movies or documentaries or anything like that, or TV shows. I just liked stories and wanting to be a part of people making cool things. I mean, truthfully, that's what drew me to being on Noe's team at Invisible Children.
Right.
It was this chance to work with Noel and these other people like Alex and Monica and all these other people in the art department, to make things. So I left IC and I moved home to South Carolina for a few months, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, what do I do? What do I do? And the World Cup was on, and I remember I just started making fun little side projects around the World Cup. And then I finally realized, you know what, living in San Diego for so long, we had all these friends moving up to LA to go make things, to go do things.
Yeah.
So I decided, hey, pack a bag, and I reached out to a friend from the IC days named Penny, who, we had been involved with doing some cool stuff with the buried life and trying to, we did a thing to get a person a bionic arm, like cool little, like,
Yeah.
and I'm not throwing that out there as like a humble brag. This woman did like 90%, if not more, of the work
Yeah.
in that scenario, but it showed me the ability of, like, there's so many cool people out there to collaborate.
Right.
And I hit her up and was just like, hey, I'm coming to LA, like, can I meet with you? Can I tell you some of the ideas and things I want to make? And that kind of kickstarted a path I actually didn't see coming, which is kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah.
This other offshoot, which was starting to work on, with an advertising agency and doing some creative work and account management work and seeing the side of the business of, big brand work and how that creative works. And it's interesting. It's an industry with a lot of burnout. It's an industry with a lot of narcissism, vanity. There are people doing really great, really cool work too, though. So it's not all doom and gloom in that world. But so I bounced around in the agency world for a while.
What does your day-to-day look like in that specific area, like the ad world?
Yeah. So it's kind of like I the sexy answer is I was basically Matthew McConaughey and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, down to the physical features and slow drawl and accent. And Kate Hudson came along and we made it work.
That's one of my favorite movies. Did you know that?
Dude, great movie.
It's such a good movie. My wife gives me such a hard time.
That's ridiculous. Rom-coms I hate horror movies. And,
Same.
I love a good rom-com. If you ever want to hit me with like Crazy Stupid Love or come at me with
I'm with you.
anything like that, that's the jam.
This is why we're friends, Carl.
There you go.
Sports and rom-coms.
Miss me with the horror stuff. But yeah, so my day-to-day was half kind of interfacing with clients, working with producers to get things done, get things off the ground, or things being made, or campaign things and tools and pieces and content getting finished. And then the other half of the job allowed for kind of a lot of creativity and still having the ability to pitch campaigns and pitch experiential stuff and kind of build out, which is what I love.
Sure.
That's why I stuck with that industry. Was here I was having the chance to have a direct impact on the brainstorms and idea sessions that made work, and I really that I love, and that's something that I got at Invisible Chill than any place else, was working with amazingly special and talented, far more talented friends than myself, and getting to collaborate and toss around ideas. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah,
so,
that creative control.
Yeah, and it's not even control though. Like I'm okay with people changing my ideas. I'm okay with that. I just want input. Like I just want, I'm sure there's definitely some ego involved. I think I'd be naive or lying if I didn't say like I love the feeling of when somebody tells me that's a really great idea.
Yeah. I don't
like
think there's anything wrong with that. I don't that's my take. I mean, what's wrong with having a good idea and enjoying being told that? I think it's a good thing. So
yeah, I think it's good to be proud of yourself. I think sometimes I treat it like it's probably like a drug. Like I want approval, which is probably not a good thing. That part,
sure.
No, yeah, it's interesting. I don't need the creative control. I want like
the
5
kudos.
people in a room, and if they build my idea into something cooler, then that's great. And if my ideas don't even get used, that's great. I just like to contribute.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also enjoy those types of things as well, whatever that looks like. But cool. So you currently work for, is it a marketing firm then, or?
Yeah, so I left this bigger ad agency a little while back. I was trying to bounce around in the freelance world, which part of it I liked. I have a lot of friends doing interesting work, so I was latching onto projects that interested me and them, and I was trying to work in like development and doing a decent job of trying to like pitch ideas, whether that was short stories, podcasts, documentaries, anything that was interesting. Like, hey, I heard this story about how 20 years ago in the Canary Islands, or excuse me, the Azores Islands, probably butchering the pronunciation, Azores, this sailboat washed up. This is a true story. 20 years ago in 90s. Okay. 1990, a sailboat washed up on the Azores with a ton of cocaine.
Yeah.
And this one sailboat set in motion. 20 years later, this island is still suffering now all of these consequences of this one guy deciding to pull his boat in to patch a leak or whatever, a rudder. And so it's a fascinating story. So I love stories and trying to pitch that. And so I've been.
Is there a movie about that?
No, not yet, but there needs to be.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, pitch development for ideas and stories like that. And then recently I've latched on to another agency where I'm working to do some cool things with some clients there. But it's just a lot of campaign related work. Just like there's certain stuff with YouTube and other, not in a whoring kind of way. I want to make cool things, man.
Yeah, I get it. I'm right there with you. There's just so much cool content out there these days, and
there's so much.
It's really amazing. Some of I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with some of these just with your own work, but one of my inspirations for starting CrazyFaceUno was Mr. Beast.
Oh, yeah.
And just, they're just fun videos, right? But his philanthropy, if you will, just giving away money and, doing fun things. And I feel like he's genuinely a good guy. And I don't know, those, you brought up, what was the one show?
The Buried Life.
The Buried Life, yeah. Like, they're obviously, in the past, those have been, great people, but just good. There's another one called something Yes Theory. Yes Theory. Yeah, Yes Theory. That's awesome as well. And I just love that. I think that, hopefully someday that be in this situation where I can do some cool stuff like that as well. But I was journaling about this the other day. I've got my journal here in front of me, and maybe I can find it. But I just really enjoy like the what's the word? Just like making people's day, you know? I think it's so fun. I've brought this up several times on the podcast too now, but one of my favorite things to do is like before I go to bed or when I have just free time to do whatever I want, I'll watch the like America's Got Talent or the X Factor or whatever it is, whatever has Simon Cowell on it. Like he's my guy. I like Simon.
Love that.
But it's the like positive ones, you know, it's the ones where they hit the golden buzzer or the ones where they're like shocked and awed, and I love that. I love seeing people's hard work come to fruition. I think there's something special about that. There's something that it brings me like so much joy and touches a deep part of my heart and soul. And I don't know. I think that's super fun and super cool. And there's just so many ways to like be creative and to not stick with the status quo and spread positivity. There's enough negative shit out there these days that that's low hanging fruit. It's easy to like pick on something and beat it up, and I'm guilty of it as well.
It's so easy. It's so crazy how hard you sometimes have to work to not be critical.
100%.
Like, I struggle with that too. I mean, it's one of these things where like, you know, I look at movies and you know, I think it's important to recognize like when others do it, but obviously, you know, really too when we do it ourselves. I'll see a movie and I'll just be like, man, that movie was this and that and the other, and I'll disparage it. And look, people have a right to be critical of the things they pay for and whatever, but sometimes I catch myself in these moments. I'm like, why do I care that much? And in this regard to disparage this thing, like, take it easy, man. The person just made it to, you know, entertain me or whatever. But no, I totally agree. I think there's something really wonderful about trying to, you know, consume great things, trying to see things like the stories that, like, look at what was the guy from the Browns who, you know, left junior college. Did you see this recently? The wide receiver
I don't know if I did.
Left junior college to try to make it in the NFL, wanted to get into a training camp with any team that would have him, went down to the Browns training camp, wrote an email to like one of the strength and conditioning coaches explaining his situation, was sleeping on park benches and using a gym membership that he had to shower, and was like, you know, just doing whatever it took. And then he gets in, he actually starts doing well with the team, and then returns a punt for a touchdown the other day.
That's
and the
awesome.
Look on his teammates' faces, the announcers screaming.
You
can imagine the people watching at home. It didn't matter. Like, people were touched by that. You know,
everybody wants to see success. They want to see people succeed. They really do. I think that's like, I think we crave that.
Yeah, well, I was reading. I mean, I just consume so much stuff just because I don't know, either curious or overly addicted to my phone for one thing, which is definitely probably
likewise.
But I saw this thing that was basically pointing to, I think it was like NPR, and it was basically saying like, if you want to feel happier in your daily life, it was saying one of the best things you can do. And I think it came from like Body Research is what they did. But one of the best things you can do is strike up conversations with strangers. And so it's really interesting. But basically they found that these seemingly like random or, you know, silly out of the blue conversations with strangers can actually provide, you know, more happiness than, you know, like anything else in your day. Like random people, because like it basically washes away this idea of, I don't know, and I'm just hypothesizing, I kind of forget what it was about, but like maybe it washes away this feeling of like we're not connected, or it washes away feelings of insecurities around, will this person like me, or whatever. So like positive experiences with others, like strangers, it has a huge effect on happiness.
Well,
inclusion, it's belonging, right?
Belonging. Absolutely. And don't you think there's a piece of that too, is just it's like the concept of like you are what you eat, or like I heard another bit that was like you are 50% of the people you spend your time with, or like your friends, like that you spend the most time with. Like you become those things, and so when you are doing good, or when you're meeting new people and like finding that belonging, like it brings in a greater purpose and value, I think, to life. I've noticed that even with, again, bringing it back to CrazyFaceUno here, there was a few little projects that I did early on. Back in Minnesota, I bought some flowers and some gift cards for a local coffee shop and just took them to my neighbors. It's a simple way of giving and showing you appreciate someone, and just doing good, and so simple. It costs like $10 and you can do something good for somebody. But it felt awesome to like just see the surprise, the smiles on their faces, and whatever the corniest things, the simplest things you could point out, but it felt really good. It's just a good feeling to do good. And something I've really been focusing on lately, personally myself, is just showing appreciation and saying thank you to just the simple things. Whether it's, you're at the grocery store and you see somebody pick up a can or put something back in the right spot, it's like just show appreciation for like them doing that. It's like giving positive reinforcement for good things, it's so simple, and it feels good. One, it's a simple way of like doing good and making a difference in someone's life, and also like encouraging positive behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like, and this goes back to, I mean, I think there's two aspects to that. One, I think, my mom would say, not in a selfish way necessarily, but like the laws of attraction, like the more of that you put out there, the more that you receive.
Sure. Yeah.
But also, and this was something that, this gets said a lot. I remember this is like one of Jason's favorite things to say, and I think it is true. And I think, was it Oprah? But that idea of like people want to, that idea of I see you, I hear you, and what you have to say matters.
Yeah.
Like people, and that's like an easy thing to fall back on and whatnot. But like I think something that really registers is in a world where we're more connected than ever, but a lot of times that connectivity means you're in this elevator with people all looking at their phones.
Yeah.
Having somebody look at you and smile, not in a creepy way. Having somebody look at you and acknowledge your existence, having your existence acknowledged, and someone just be like, nothing more than, casual, like you're saying thank you, or hey, are you doing okay today, to the people or whatever.
Yeah.
Having somebody take a second to, in our fast-paced lives, show us that little attention to you and your existence matter.
Absolutely.
You're here. I think that's a really, really cool, good thing.
Yeah. It's like, I see you.
Yeah.
Carl, you kind of mentioned it briefly, but your trip to Israel.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing some of that with us and kind of telling about that? I think that's I know you've told me a little bit about it. I'd love to hear a little bit about that trip.
Yeah, of course. So, I'm Jewish. My family is Jewish, and it's very interesting. Growing up in South Carolina, like, let's call it at least, I don't have an exact number, but we were a minority in the sense of religion. And the majority of my friends were Christians, whether that was Southern Baptists or
Yeah.
Catholics, whatever. And so minus big major holidays like Passover, obviously Hanukkah and Yom
Mm-hmm.
Kippur and Rosh Hashanah and things like that. Outside of that, once we got through periods of middle school and high school where we were going to the synagogues often, we were a little attached from the religious aspect of that stuff. And
Yeah.
so we had the opportunity. My brother and I, we were my twin. We were all about to be on the wrong side of age to go on Birthright, which is that program they send you over. And you experience a lot of cultural things, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And our younger brother actually went before us and had this really cool, amazing experience. And so we decided to go. And so briefly over that like Christmas break kind of period of 2013 into 2014, we decided to schedule our trip, and it was amazing. It was really interesting. So you go on this trip and you're with like 20 other kids, your age or younger. For the most part, they were younger, which actually ended up being really cool.
Yeah.
Because I think kids either thought, whoa, like they're 5 years older than us, they're really cool. Or it was just like a chance to be around younger, people by that margin and just have fun. But it was amazing. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things, good and bad. Obviously there's a lot to unpackage with the ongoing conflict stuff with Palestine and the situations there where there's a lot I don't agree with and really struggle with as far as the state of Israel and some of the things they do.
Sure.
But it's interesting too. Like I don't know. I have a really hard time with this because I like to really challenge myself to want and work with people who are being oppressed and to understand that side. And there's definitely things that are going on where these people are being oppressed. But it's interesting because I see other parts and elements too from the perspective of people I met in Israel. And I don't know. I mean, I guess like anything, right? Like in life, there's no black and white.
No.
Shades of gray.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so you learn and were educated on the conflict. You were educated on Judaism itself. We met a lot of people from different religions, like the Druze, which is funny because my twin's name is Drew.
Yeah.
And so Druze, different spelling obviously and everything. The Druzian people and what their religion was fascinating to me. I was meeting people in a culture. We met a lot of Muslim people that I don't know. It so is out of my comfort zone in certain ways.
Yeah.
Very, I like to think, open person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even that I was like nervous or scared, comfort zone wise, but just you're getting so much different stimulus. And so a cool part of the trip, anyway, to try to make this long story short, is you get a number of Israeli students your age who join you on the trip, and for them it's kind of like this reward, right? There's military service over there that you are required to do. So a lot of these people have just completed their military service, and they're really meant to give you the full immersion, the full experience, right? You get to talk to these people every day. You get to joke with them. You get to hear their thoughts on life from wherever they're from, be it Tel Aviv or be it like one of the settlements in kibbutzes. But yeah, the food, the people, I don't know. We met a few people really stick out in memory. All people I'm all still very close with. And I remember this one young woman who, she, I very early on the trip, I had this big crush on her, and I remember this conversation just because she was fascinating, so articulate, really intelligent, and I remember something to the extent of like asking her like on a day-to-day thing, like what was her like schedule after school, and she's like, oh well, I have piano lessons, and I made some like really stupid, off the cuff remark. I don't even know why. I mean, it's probably like just a young guy putting his foot in his mouth with a girl he liked.
Yeah.
And I said something stupid back, like, "Oh, your parents making you go do that?" And she gave me this look, not even recognizing I was kind of like teasing her.
Yeah.
And she just looked at me and she's like, "No, I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to learn how to do it. So
Yeah.
I'm taking it." And it was such a simple answer, but it so shocked me because on the whole, so many of the Israeli people that we met were so incredibly motivated and so incredibly wanting to soak in anything they could get their hands on. And I was so struck by that. I really was.
Yeah.
In a way that this is not a PSA advert for Israel. I was just so moved by that. Like, I was like, man, I look at going home at the end of the day, unwinding with a beer or something, and just cutting it off. And to this woman specifically, she was just like, I have a limited amount of time to learn everything I can, and so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Like, jeez, you are so much better than me.
Well, I think...
So yes, that was great.
Isn't it interesting? I was talking with a buddy from college recently, Calvin Walterhouse. I did a podcast with him as well back at the Bethel Boys series, and he has spent a lot of time, in South America, Argentina, and just a bunch of different places. And one of his comments he made the weekend that we were all together was how Americans are so focused on our job and like the work you do. And I just wonder, I guess you speaking to that or saying that, about like, man, I just want to go home at the end of the day and have a beer and relax and kick back. But we have such a focus on, well, what do you do? That's like the first question you always get. And I ask the same question. I've tried to rephrase it nowadays, but like, what do you do for work? But, cause it's not your identity, but there's so much identity in the work that you do. And we don't have a quote class system, but we do somewhat judge people based on their job and the work that they do. Which is interesting. And it's not that we don't have motivated people. It's not that people aren't trying to learn things. It's not, don't get me wrong, but it's just interesting on how perspectives of different cultures and different people around the world, how their perspectives are different.
Of course.
Just because of some of those focuses. And I just wonder how much of that is like America is so focused on work, and put this time in, and it's all about what you do. And so we put so much stress and so much of our time and energy into this job and to the work that we do that we kind of forget about the other things that are going on around us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely do. I will say, it's interesting. I follow... I don't know. I think I've always been fascinated by, I'm a creature of leisure. So I've always been fascinated by people who are not per se. And I follow so many young people on, Instagram and Twitter who are making and doing cool things, who are from the U.S. So there's definitely people here.
Of course.
Again, I think it's like there's no black and white, and it's a gray area. But I agree, and I think especially people, at least our age or my age, I'm 31, that I see stuck in these moments of a career or job change, and I think it's easy to fall prey to your job defining you. It's tough. When I was on the freelance side and I had moments of in between work, you have conversations with friends and they're like wanting to know the projects you're working on professionally, and if you don't have an answer for that, you feel almost like left out of the race or out of the convo.
Right.
It kind of gets like, dude, I don't have good updates for you today, and this is kind of depressing, so let's talk later. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think that's when you kind of got to fill in the holes with other parts of life to, supplement that.
Absolutely. My buddy Tony, who I also did a podcast with recently, we were talking about this. He's a stay-at-home dad now, and his wife is the one that, she's the one that has the job and works, and he stays at home with their little girl. And it's been a transition for him with exactly what we're talking to when people are like, well, what do you do for work? What do you do for a living? And I'm a stay-at-home dad. And of all things to like honor, and same with stay-at-home moms, and stay-at-home dads. If you choose to do that, there's no one should ever look down upon those people for doing those things. No, I mean, it's hard. It's awesome work, but he lost a part of his identity in a sense, and just because of being home and not having that answer, of, well, I do this, I'm a teacher and I'm doing this. And it took him some time. We were talking about it. Just said like it took me a long time of really dealing with that and kind of fighting those demons of being good enough or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Good. First off, good for him. And man, to be honest, I would love to be a stay-at-home.
I know.
Dad, although certain things would drive me nuts for sure. But like, in thinking of that, whether it's him or, for example, my girlfriend, she's amazing. She's so great. And in the periods of me being in between work, she almost had to be a stay-at-home parent in a way, as far as like trying to pump me up and get me going on things and get excited. And it's one of those things where like, your job can really, or when you're in a transition kind of thing between,
it can be very discouraging.
It's tough, man. It really is. And so having supportive partners or having family or whatever that can kind of, or friends remind you like you are not your job, or you are not the job that you do not have yet, or whatever. It's a tough thing, man.
Absolutely. Carl, we've been on some serious topics, but I want to bring up, you were on a TV show.
That's right.
My wife and I watched, what was it called again? I totally blanked.
Love at First Kiss.
Love at First Kiss. Yeah. My wife and I watched the show, and we watched your little episode, and it was awesome.
Still waiting on my daytime Emmy. It's in the mail. It's probably lost in transit, but
if you guys are listening out there, Google it, see if you can find it. Love at First Kiss. It's a funny little show, but Carl Stevens has a little cameo in the show, and I have to tell you, dude, I won't spoil it for anybody that might go Google this and try to find it, but well, maybe we will spoil it. But anyway, I was surprised. I was like, I just didn't expect it to go the way it went. You surprised me, sir.
You were surprised. You were surprised. My girlfriend, when she found out, like in casual conversation, like someone brought up the joke, and not even assuming that, like, and truthfully, it's not something I'm embarrassed about, because I think it's really funny, and
you shouldn't be embarrassed. Like, no, it was cool.
No,
it was fun.
No, it's hilarious. Well, but what's funny is like I don't think about it very often. Which is like that even just sounds like that's a baked response that I have, like a canned response I tell people. I don't think about it ever unless it's brought up in conversation.
Sure.
What's actually funny is friends of ours, Kevin Trout, sent me, and Sean Poole sent me gifts. They've made gifts of my time on that show at embarrassing moments. They actually sent me that today to make fun of me for our fantasy football league.
That's awesome.
But what's funny is like my girlfriend, earlier on when we were dating, someone brought it up in conversation, and she was so blindsided by it, almost like she was hurt that I had not
told her
divulged this information. But to me, like this thing doesn't, things roll off my cuff really easy.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
and I think she thought it was like such a big thing, and I never think of it, and she
Yeah.
was so like just caught off guard, like, this might be something you should tell me. And now she thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
Now we can laugh. I think in the moment it was just like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? I
Yeah,
had
right.
no idea that. But no, that was just a funny.
It was
funny thing. It's interesting how that came about. Actually, I don't know if we've had the conversation on how it came about.
No, I don't think we have.
If you wanna.
Yeah, go for it. Let's hear it.
Well, so it's funny because we were, my sister and I and some friends were at this place, like this wine tasting place, and this group of women were trying to get somebody to take their photo, and they were like, can you take a picture really quick? And so I did, and then they said to my sister, who was standing next to me, and she's wonderful, and they basically were like, hey, do you want us to take a photo of you and your boyfriend? And she was like, oh my gosh, ew, gross. That is my brother. He's single. We are not together. Like, gross. And the woman was just like, wait, is it true? And, the response to that is like, yeah, it's true. We're not dating each other. We are related. And she's like, no, is it true? You're single. I do casting for reality TV shows. And I thought she was just messing with me.
Sure. But you're in LA, so who knows, right?
Yeah. And so anyway, she took down my contact info, and I was intoxicated, to be honest. And I thought, this is funny, and I'm never going to hear from this woman again.
Right.
Full story. And, lo and behold, like a week later, I get this random number calling me, and I pick up, and she's, hey, I'm so-and-so at this casting agency. We met at this thing, and I think you'd be perfect, and come in for an interview. And I thought it was really funny. And you know me, I'm always up for like an experience, like something that's a good story, something that I can laugh at later. So I went in for an interview, and I crushed it. And the woman they do like, it was on the office walls. They do casting for like the major reality shows. Yeah. So like, I'm kind of half entertaining this thing of like, man, is this like going to be a bigger thing?
Yeah.
Or is this just a laugh? And that's when I started getting like really nervous, because I remember being young and coming home from school and seeing TV shows like A Limit Date, if you remember that. And I just remember like everybody that went on those shows looked so lame and just not cool, and all the dudes came off as jerks. And so I was starting to get nervous, and I was asking my sister, should I do this thing? Like, they really want me. Like, they were bringing me in for like 2-hour-long interviews on camera.
Do you get paid for the interviews too?
No. But they ask really like invasive questions, like
really?
Who's your perfect woman? What's your mom like? What are your erogenous zones? I didn't know what an erogenous zone was until that thing. And who's your celebrity crush? And they really get into physical and emotional, by the way, emotional details. Like,
wait, freeze. Who's your celebrity crush?
So it was, anyway. I mean, she's still great, but when I was young, it was Anna Kournikova, the female, the professional tennis player. Yeah. She, there was a tennis tournament where I grew up on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, with the professional tour, and all the pros, like Serena and Martina Hingis and Lindsay Davenport, and all these people would come to this tournament, and we used to ball boy for it. And I remember when Anna Kournikova, she was like 19, I was like 9 or something. I don't know. The ages were a little bit closer. But like, I ball boyed like around her and all these things, and I just was so in like a child, innocent, but head over heels, like we're gonna get married kind of way.
That's awesome.
Thing. And so that was my answer for them.
Nice.
But basically, I was like, I confide a lot in my siblings, and I remember asking my sister, should I do this thing? And she was like, absolutely not. And then
she said no.
Oh yeah, she said absolutely not. Like, do not do this. And then I asked my twin, should I do this? And he was like, absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. Like, I need to be able to laugh at this later down the line. And
Absolutely. I would have
so
said the
I
same thing
wobbled.
as your twin. I mean,
Dude, it's yeah. I mean, every guy I talk to, not even from a perspective of like meet women, or it was mostly they wanted me to do it so they could laugh at me, which I totally am fine with and totally
yeah.
respect. But yeah, so I didn't want to do it, and I was kind of dodging this woman's phone calls for a really long time, and they left me all these messages, and they were really transparent. They're like, we really loved you. We got all these hours of interviews, and we want to make you a main character on the show. And basically, the premise of the show again is like, can two strangers who've never met, never talked, never said a word to each other, can they go into a room without any interaction and kiss and tell right then and there if something is there, if there's a relationship, if there's a physical and emotional connection.
Yeah.
Which I'm naive enough and up. I don't. You know what? Screw it. Naivety is not fair. I believe in things can happen, right?
Sure.
So for me, with how serious some of their questions are, I'm thinking, man, wow, they might really actually find me someone amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will never change. I will always have that attitude. To be other would be contrary to my hopeful belief in things. But anyway, I for a long time didn't want to do it, and finally this woman called me, and I was on this family trip, abroad, and I pick up the phone, and she's like, "Look, I can tell you're hesitant. What's the deal? Like, what are you concerned about? What's wrong?" And I said, look, I'm really nervous that I want to do this because it sounds fun and a cool experience, but I don't want to be a jerk. And I know, like, you guys, in the reality world, you edit what people say, you splice things together, you change things up, you build narratives, not what actually happens. I don't want to be made to be something I'm not. And she said, look, I'm going to give you one piece of advice, and then you make the decision. Here's the piece of advice. Don't say anything that we can use against you, and you'll be fine.
It's a good point, so said, but it's also a little cop-out of a comment for her. But it is true.
It's totally a cop-out, 100%. But I said, okay, well then, you know what? I'll just really watch myself, and okay. And so I went in. We did the show. It was hilarious. It was just one day of shooting, and there's so many things to expand upon. But basically, I went into this room. I kind of told myself, it's funny. Like, so no one who really understands the entertainment side of reality TV knows this, but they shoot a lot of scenes that aren't sequential. So you can footage that you just use later on. So
like B-roll.
Yeah, exactly. So the narrative of how it worked is we walk in a room, I kiss this woman, you leave, you give an interview, and then if you liked each other, you go on another date. If you don't, you never see each other again. And they told me they would find me another date if I didn't like this person. And so the way they play it is basically like I go in this room, kiss this woman, go back out. She agrees to another date. I don't. And then it shows me walking out like I've just been saved or spared some awful expense, which it couldn't be further from the truth. Because the first thing we filmed that day, they were like, okay, walk out this door 3 times. The first time, walk out like you are really unhappy and you just had a really bad experience. Second time.
See, these are the editing things that you were talking about, really.
Exactly. And the second time, they're like, walk out like you just had the best date ever. And so they can all of that stuff.
Right. Which makes sense in some ways. I mean, that's like when that reality TV, what was it, that did the Invisible Children deal. Yeah. They did some of the same stuff, throughout. And
totally.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. It's the name of the game.
Yep.
And I understood that. But so anyway, I go in this room and it's all white. And you're on a sound stage and you could hear a pin drop, and I'm just getting nervous. And they'd already interviewed me for an hour that day, being like, okay, can you find love? Like, do you care more about the physical stuff in a partner, or do you care more about the mental aspects? And I was like, you gotta have both. I gotta have someone who stimulates and challenges me. You gotta,
Yeah.
I want both, and all these things, and they really build you up, and then they lead you into the sound stage, and you're in there with like 7 guys, all
Really?
with cameras
Yeah.
and boom microphones,
Yeah.
and you're trying to pretend that they're not there, but I'm getting nervous. Like, I cracked a stupid joke about how they all were wearing the same T-shirt and how embarrassing to go to work wearing the same thing, and nobody laughed. So like my self-esteem was plummeted at this point. And then they bring out this woman on the other side of this wall. I can't see her, but I can hear her. And I just remember telling myself, like, all right, Carl, whoever is on the other side of that wall, does not matter. You've got to give this person a decent kiss.
Yeah.
You just gotta go for it, right?
Yeah.
Like a classy, quick kiss. Get it done with, like, not too much tongue, not, whatever. And they already brief you. They're like, look, we've had people who give a peck on the cheek, and we have people who are like getting down out there. So do whatever you want. Like, feel it out. Do whatever you want. And so I was like, all right, whoever it is, man, just go for it. Quick kiss and see what happens. And this woman walks out, and I gave her a kiss, and she pulls away and goes back. And then they bring you into this interview room, and they interview you for another like hour and a half or so. And
dang,
it was very interesting. They kind of, this part sucks. They could tell that I was not attracted to her.
Yeah.
And once they understood that, immediately the narrative changed, right? And they wanted me to, once they realized there was not going to be another date, they wanted me to play a character. So there's a producer on the other side of the camera, and they interview you and they're asking you questions. And they wanted me to start disparaging this woman.
Right.
Which sucked. That was so awful, because like, to me, it's like, I don't know her. I don't know anything. I don't even know her name.
Yeah.
And who am I to answer questions about how she looks, her intelligence, anything? Who am I to know those things or say those things?
Yeah.
When so many people probably think she's the most beautiful, wonderful person. And I firmly believe we probably would be great friends.
Yeah.
She seemed, whatever, like, but yeah, so it's interesting because they wanted me to start saying all these bad things and, or trying to lead me into corners that would get me to say bad things.
Sure.
And I didn't really give them much.
Yeah.
And then they thanked me, and I left for the day. But the way it goes, if you watch the episode, is like she says yes to another date. And then they take her to this room where she's waiting on me to appear. I clearly don't appear.
Yeah.
So she cries, and all that could have been acting too. I'm not really sure, but but she starts crying. What's funny is when the episode came out, I forgot. By the way, I forgot that I'd done it, because from when it was shot to when it aired was almost a full year later.
Yeah.
And I had just forgotten about it.
Yeah. Did they reach out to you and tell you like, hey, it's going to be airing, or?
They reached out to me like 3 months prior, and they were like, hey, just letting you know, not all the episodes are cut, but this might be coming out in a couple months. I don't know. They're like, we'll get back to you. And then I didn't hear back again. So I was like, okay, well, I just assumed, I didn't really give them juicy, disparaging material.
Right.
And so I just assumed it would sit in a canister and never see the light of day.
Yeah.
What's funny is actually a week after shooting, I saw the producer who interviewed me in a coffee shop.
Really?
I was like, hey, you're from the thing. How'd it go? How'd the rest of the show go? Whatever. And by the way, one of the reasons I said no to another date with this woman also had nothing to do with her, really. They just said, hey, we're going to find you more dates if you don't like this person. So I took it gamble. I was like,
well,
maybe
let's go for the next one. Yeah.
Anna Kournikova could be
exactly
on the next one. My current girlfriend who I'm with now could be on the next. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, how's it going? And she's like, it's going. I'm going to move back to Toronto. I don't really like the work I'm doing. It's really kind of eating at me. So I got this sense of like, I don't know, she didn't like the interaction we had because she saw what she was trying to do, which was hurt someone else's character. I don't know.
Interesting.
But anyway, episode aired. I was going to Mexico with a friend for a vacation, and we were meeting, just south of San Diego. We were meeting his folks at this house that they were going to give us the keys to. And the mom, when she saw the video, because he showed her, because he thought it'd be funny to like have me show up and her having seen it and embarrass me, which I didn't care. She was like, the mom was crying about it. She's like, how could you do that to that poor girl?
Oh.
And I was like, no, you don't understand. It's not, I didn't know. They never tell you, by the way, like, if you say no to this date with this person, we're going to bring her in a room and just leave her there until you don't show up. Like, they don't say that.
No. Dude, I totally thought you would show up. I told my wife, I told Dana, I was like, he's too nice. He's going to show up.
I let you down, man. Well,
I know.
Again, the reason I didn't show up is like...
Right, because they told you would have you'd have the potential for another.
Well, they frame it in such a way that's like, look, we're going to find, and you believe them, I believe them anyway, at the time. They're like, we are going to find you somebody until we find you the perfect person. and so the way my brain receives that is like, okay, again, like,
sweet, let's go for it. Yeah.
Or just like my current girlfriend, her name is Taylor, like Taylor is the next one, for example.
Right,
like
right.
This person I'm going to be with is going to be this next person. So no offense to this girl, but I'm not really feeling it. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, or short story long, it didn't work out with us, me and that girl. It was a funny episode, and now all of my friends have gifts of my face and embarrassing stuff on me, and I think it's hilarious.
I think I'm going to need to see some of those, Carl. I think you're going to have to share a couple of those with me.
Make sure you get them. It's funny, I was so glad I was on that Mexico vacation thing, because I heard the agency I was working at, they turned all the computer screens in the morning of the office to the clip on repeat, expecting that I was going to come in and just be totally...
That's even better.
So I thankfully was not at work that day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's called Love at First Kiss, once again.
First Kiss.
So give that show a listen or watch.
It blew up recently, or a while back, because one of the people on the show, who was far more memorable than it's kind of hard to, it's such a spectacle thing we live in.
Yeah.
But this guy had never kissed someone before, and so it was like the discovery of him trying to go through these motions, and it was awkward. And
yeah.
There's so many microphones in the room that it's anyway. But yeah, so that was the foray into that world, man.
Nice. Well, dude, I know you got to get going. So is there anything you want to leave us with before we close things out?
I mean, I love talking to you, man. I love what you're doing. I think, what you told me a little bit ago about, we all kind of know, everybody knows what doing bad in the world is, and doing bad work and making things worse. And, whatever your political beliefs, whatever your religious beliefs, at the core, people know when, most people anyway, know when something is bad.
Yeah.
And so it's such an interesting thing of like, well, how can we do good? And, no, I mean, I think the only thing to add to that is stuff that you're already, that I try to get better at, because we all could do better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Trying to do good both in a level of my small community and on bigger scales when I can support. It's interesting. Alex, who I adore, Alex, he, we used to live with him, obviously. He was telling me something recently where, I reached out to him, and I was like, man, I'm having such a hard time. I think it was with a lot of the family separation stuff at that time. Yeah. Which is obviously still ongoing. But I said something to the tune of like, I feel so beaten by this, and I feel, I'm having these conversations with a lot of friends back home, I have a lot of friends, not a lot, but I have friends who I have very different beliefs from, and a lot
Yeah.
of the things that I
Same.
feel that they believe in, truthfully, I feel they're pretty fucked up and things that I'm adversely against. But
Yeah.
I keep having these conversations with them because I feel that if nothing more, they need to hear from me, somebody they know and like
Yeah.
they like me, that I don't think like them, that
Yeah.
my views are not like them, right? Like I don't want them to live in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
They have to hear from somebody who looks like them,
Absolutely.
and sounds like them and comes from where they come from and know that I don't think like they do.
Yeah.
And, I was like, man, Alex, I'm getting really exhausted by all this. Like, what do you think? Do you think I'm getting through? Do you think there's value in that? What do you think? And he said something that was so profound. He was like, he had an appreciation or an understanding of why I was doing what I was doing. And, he said, something to the extent of like, you can't always change or fix or have that effect on those people. But the thing you can do is support the people who are needing that help, who are thinking like you already.
Yeah.
So he's like, I have friends in the trans community who need me and who I donate to. Not to organizations, but I give them direct money. I have friends who are not from this country, who are immigrants and they're in really tough situations. Sometimes I literally Venmo them money because they need it, or because I can tell they need. And so he's like basically saying, I get it, right? Why you're fighting these battles or these conversations.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even doing anything valiant. I'm just trying to be decent.
Yeah.
He's like, I get why you're having those conversations, but something that might be good for you is rather than just be having these debates, go to the people who really need you.
Yeah.
And work for a while with them. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
This whole time I'm trying to change people's belief systems that I care about.
Yeah.
But, it's this difficult thing. I really have, because I see value in that. I've really, though, neglected, I do have friends who are immigrants. I do have friends who are, LGBTQ who need these matters and attention. And why? I don't know. So anyway, I guess, when you said, do I have anything I want to leave you with? No, other than just, I love the idea of what you're doing, and I think there's so much good that can be done. And I think it was really an interesting change in my perspective of, it doesn't always have to be about standing up against people. You can also do those things that are standing up for other people. And they're both right. And I don't have all the answers. I don't have so many answers. But I thought that was an interesting thing he said. It changed a lot of what I think.
Absolutely, Carl. I love everything you said. That was really great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast with me, Carl. I love you, man. You're a good friend. And I look forward to our next conversation. And hopefully we can have you back on here again sometime.
I love you too, dude. Yeah, I would enjoy that. It's been great and phenomenal, and I hope people got something out of it. Opposite just me rambling for a lot of.
No, that's great.
But I appreciate it, man. This was really fun. So I wish you all the best. I'm subscribed. I know my girlfriend is like, well, now I got to hop on and hear what you're saying just to make sure you're not, a loon.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I wish you nothing but the best, man. So let's keep in touch, and I'll catch you soon, okay?
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Remember, do good, make a difference. And like Carl said, find what works for you. If you want to stand up and stand against something, that's great. But there's also people out there that can use a hand just to come alongside and to help them through the day and help them through their life. So find a way to help, find a way to do good, and find a way to make a difference. Love you all. Peace.